Geneva Gay, and Paris. So the three key pillars within cultural relevant pedagogy is the educators need to extending students' content knowledge, developing their cultural competency, but also improving students' political and social awarenesses. That's the three key elements in like the content knowledge, cultural competency, and social political awareness to improve students' overall development. On the other hand, coming up with the Tao Te Ching, it's like a traditional sage words by Lao Tzu. Is a like also his name can be Lao Tzu is like respective way to referring someone, as we could say, 孔子, 孟子. Zi is like not as a little son, but also like tributing his knowledge, tributing his wisdom. His original name may be Li Dan, Li as in first last name. In that tradition should be called Dan Li or Er Li, but it cannot be tell which one would be the true name, but we just call that Lao Tzu. He lived in 571 until 470 before the century. Okay, way older than us. The text originally published in the late 4th century. As you can tell from archaeological excavation, there are some of the evidence found in the bamboo or wooden slips, but also on the silk. As you can tell on the screen, there are two pictures over here. The text is not long. It's about approximately 5,000 Chinese characters in totally 81 chapters. Tao Te Ching is mainly focusing about Chinese philosophy, governance, and religious practice. So we're going to focus on two chapters today. One is chapter 17. The chapter 17 of Tao Te Ching in Chinese I'll read you all. 太上不知有之，其次亲而誉之，其次畏之，其次辱之，信不足焉，有不信焉，忧兮其贵言，功成事遂，百姓皆谓我自然。I'll translate to in English, brief English. Lao Tzu used a metaphor to differentiate the best, the moderate, and worst monarchy in governance. That's the main text about. And he tells us what would be the best monarch and what would be the worst. And the best monarch will make people think the monarch did nothing. It's all achieved, accomplished by people. It's so naturally, like so smoothly and without even noticing. However, some of the worst monarch, they were doing everything. They make themselves very outstanding, very easily evident. However, people find that maybe too much work. There will be too much, right? So that's what Lao Tzu's philosophy. Another will be chapter 43. If you can tell the background, I'm not so sure if they're standing to you, speaking with you all. It's like the Mammoth Cave National Park as one of the like outstanding landscape features. Why I present that picture as a background? It is because as we're thinking about stone and water, which one is harder, which one is softer? We all have our answers, right? But water can be so hard with years and years, ages and ages, it will penetrate the stones. That is the philosophy talking about by Lao Tzu. So it comes to chapter 43. 天下之至柔，驰骋天下之至坚，无有入无间，无事以知无有之有益，无言之教，无为之义，天下希及之。I'll translate brief English. War is so subtle yet transformative, and is so effortless, so unnoticeable, and it can uplifting a dumbbell like a feather. It's so soft. It's like a dumbbell. It is a dumbbell, but we can just lift it like a feather. And you can see the comparison over here. There are some other Chinese idioms we called 以柔克刚 or 水滴石穿, the water can penetrate the stone as we conquering the unyielding with yielding. When it comes to governance or politician, we're thinking about also apply that to educational philosophy, to educational context. We can, as educators, we can instructing our students without words. There are so many ways we can influence them. We can tell them. And in the meanwhile, our subtle influences will shift people like in an unrecognized approach. So you may feel that, oh my gosh, they're so complicated. They're so contradictory to one the other with cultural relevant pedagogy versus Tao Te Ching. How can we shift them together? We're going to reveal more about how we did. So in terms of cultural relevant pedagogy, we are talking about intentional intervention. We're talking about explicitly social political transformation. And we are talking about educators should be visible because they're the core, they're going to making the change, right? But in Tao Te Ching's perspective, we're thinking about how can we, using some subtle non-improvisational action, and how can we using 自然 like in a more natural way to influence people. Influence can be like effortless. It seemed like effortless, but however it's not, right? We all know that. So here's the tension. I invite you all to think about: is change best achieved through deliberate disruption or restrained attunement? When we're thinking about, as we're talking about the monarch, right, in chapter 17, we are thinking about the role of leadership. Under the cultural relevant pedagogy's umbrella, we are thinking leadership is a vocal, leadership is critical, and it's all about reform. We need to change that. In terms of power structures, it must be named and challenged. Teacher is no longer the core center. We are giving the power to students. Students and teachers are shared powers in that situation. In Tao Te Ching, a little bit similar, but not so exactly similar. We're talking about that. The best leader is scarcely known, as we shared a little bit earlier. And we'll also encourage you to think about how our transformation can occur without ownership. The monarch will not take the ownership about, oh, it's all, I have done that. It's not your work. However, Tao Te Ching were thinking it's all collaborative work, it's all by themselves, coming from them all. Here comes the second question I invite you all to think. Must transformative leadership be visible and declarative? It will be becoming the real nice juice about how can we using Tao Te Ching to rethink about educational change. In terms of cultural relevant pedagogy, we are thinking about intentional transformation. It's about educators want to bring in more social justice to support less represented, to support people who are more marginalized. So it's all about intentional agency. It occurs through curriculum and pedagogy. Educators were using their like funds of knowledge to reshape their curriculum. It also embedded within teachers' belief system. If the teacher don't believe so, they won't do that, right? In terms of Tao Te Ching, as I using the two metaphors, uplifting a dumbbell like a feather, that's talking about the change. Like it's so subtle, so unnoticeable, conquering the unyielding with the yielding. I invite you to think the third question. Should transformation be architect or allowed unfold gradually? It's so subtle, or it should be intentional. All right, since I already introduced the background, let me ask you one more question. It's all about dialogue, right? Action spoke louder. Let's rethink about that. Is that really need to have a like more noticeable action? Under the pillar of cultural relevant pedagogy, we're thinking about academic success. We're thinking about cultural competence. We're thinking about cultural political consciousness. There are so many things behind that. But in terms of Tao Te Ching, can we shift our mindset? Can action be subtle rather than declarative? Can vigor emerge without force? Can conscience unfold with prescription? Can teaching operate like water shaping stone? If action speaks louder, what kind of action speaks most wisely? When that's a philosophical part in technology. I mean, like the literature part. Then we started to conduct our research because we're thinking about extending cultural relevant pedagogy into STEM education with international students. Let me introduce you a bit of background knowledge about that. Uh, like when we started to do the research, we found it's like challenging and push back, and we feel so challenged. And so, I was originally we thought cultural relevant pedagogy is like the core. We're doing the best for the better, greater needs. We're supporting marginalized communities. However, we feel a lot of pushbacks, not only from the educators but also from students as well. So we started to rethink about, is that the best way, or could be alternatives? So we started to go deeper why that situation happened. So we come to first, it's like disciplinary tension. Since STEM education prioritizes technical vigor, precision, and efficiency. However, if we intentionally incorporated cultural relevant pedagogy, we thinking about we need to making critical change. We need to make like critiques. We need to talking about cultural perspective, right? So there will be one tension just merged. The second one is expectation of authority. For some of the students who are from a cultural background with more hierarchy learning authorities, they consider the educators will be top-down situation. That will be normal. Students learning from our educators. However, cultural relevant pedagogy emphasizes dialogue, shared authorities between students and educators. As I started to teach cross-cultural communication this semester, I started to think it's about like social distance. Like in U.S. context or based, there will be like smaller social distance within people. But however, in like Eastern Asia, in China, Japan, South Korea, North Korea, there will be more top-down, right? Students from different countries or different areas within a different educational traditions, they will have different thinking about expectations of educators. The third one would be cognitive and transitional load. For international students, they come to China, they already need to overcome so many like challenges, and they're like, for instance, language will be the top one. Chinese is one of the most difficult language to learn, as you may all know that, right? So they also need to manage their stress, especially when they're adapting themselves into new context, like the food, the culture, like the lots of tension just merged. But also they're also fighting for their sense of belonging. They already have so many things on their plate. How can we, as an educator, we original intention is to make them feel more comfortable. However, we're giving them more like cognitive load and make them feel more stressed. Is that really necessary? On the other hand, STEM coursework can be very demanding in terms of cognitive thinking and develop and critical thinking. How can we be so demanding, asking them to do extra one more thing, right? So in terms of epistemic assumptions, STEM education usually focuses on knowledge is universal, is like unilateral, and it's objective. But in terms of cultural relevant pedagogy, we're thinking cultural is knowledge is culturally situated, is politically situated. We need to break that down, which also causes another conflict. In terms of like risk of over intervention, would be strong commitment to inclusion become like over design. Could we do too much? Excessive framing can feel imposed rather than organic, as imposing to Tao Te Ching is more like organic, natural way. It's like more intentional. So here are the five like tensions merged and challenges encountered. So as we interviewed the educators and the students, we find out that students feel like the culture discussion is not necessary. We don't need to understand that that's more focusing on the like the technical part, like the mathematics, not talking about the cultural part. Like as we mentioned earlier, like students from a more hierarchy learning traditions, they usually using silence to respond to educators as like a tradition of showing their respect, and the teachers should be the dominant part of the classroom setting. So silence, we all understand silence may reflect cultural as respect, not engage, less engagement. They're not interested. No, they're not. They're just showing their respect to our educators. Additional reflexive text maybe increase the workload. Also, the resistance to politicizing neutral disciplines. Since we don't need to talk about that, right? They feel like hesitated. What to prioritize within limited instruction time? If we budget a lot of time on cultural conversation, will be less time for content knowledge instruction. So how can we make a balance of that? That comes the question. The real challenge is not cultural relevant pedagogy should be applied or not, but how much, in what form, at what timing, for which student population, who will benefit that. Here comes the final thoughts. Less is more is not a retreat from cultural relevant pedagogy, it's a refinement of its enactment. Less intervention may create more ownership, less prescription may cultivate more agency, less force may yield more enduring transformation. Through the lens of wuwei, less become a mode of ethical alternatives rather than passivity. Less force, more natural flow, less prescription, more becoming. All right, I will conclude our presentation with a quote by Annie Lambert, who is a novelist, nonfiction writer, political activist, public speaker, and writing teacher. Hope begins in the dark. The stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. You wait, watch, and walk. You don't give up.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Guo. Great
Thank you.
content. Yeah, I'm wondering if our audience has any questions. I know Wu Wei is if you do literary translation, it becomes no actions, but it's definitely yes, has a lot more deeper meaning than that. So one of the challenges I understand is the difficulty in translating in authenticity of Tao Te Ching and I Ching into English, and that probably explains partly why it's quite limited. A lot of people may not know or truly understand the profound meaning of it. Awesome work, yes. I'm wondering if any of our audience may have questions for Dr. Guo or Dr. Gong. Do you have anything to add on to the presentation? Feel free to jump in.
Will they both present or because we can leave the question to the very end?
I don't see a slide
Dr.
deck
Gong,
from
I
Dr.
don't know.
Gong.
Does
Yeah,
Dr.
Dr. Gong,
is
would you
present?
Actually, I will take the response for some questions because in our joint research and
Oh,
actually
okay.
I'm on STEM area, so based on this research for the principle is Dr. Guo's research, but for how to take in connection with our international student, and I did some real teaching works. So I will take some questions. Okay. Mhm.
I guess I can
yeah.
ask some questions because you talk about Wenjin talk about less is more, and you are trying to basically encourage teachers to implement these principles in the classroom, right? So what kind of advice will you give the teachers? Like, how do they know this is too much, this is too little? What the other signs they can tell? Oh, maybe I am doing too much, you know? So I wonder, in terms of practical implementations, what will be their advice for teachers?
Actually, the thing is that in the engineering is something like threshold, and how to find this boundary, or
Yeah,
how to find this
yeah.
constraint.
Yeah.
And for us, sometimes actually at the beginning we try to involve a lot of culture and a lot of things related to the things to support our international students. And at the end, we find we have the pressure of our progress. Since in the STEM we have a lot of mathematics, especially for me, I'm in the computer science department, computer science. We have a lot of coding skills we need to teach to our students. So at this times, and we every in every lecture we have some target, just like how many coding skills we want to teach. So that's a bound. If you do not affect your progress, that's okay. And the other way is the student.
Oh.
Sometimes if we involve too much the cultural content to our students, we will see their reflections. Sometimes and because our students from different countries and maybe just not a lot of students, maybe just 10 or sometimes it's 5, but they're from five different countries, and some from East Asia, some from Middle Asia, and some from Russia, some from Africa, some from Europe, and they have totally different cultural background. At the beginning, we let them to share something related to the just like computer science or different coding thinkings, and we give them 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and at this time, at the beginning 5 minutes they just feel okay, and that's very interesting. At the end, they find some common values. They will think, okay, for me, I will also think about that, so I don't need to I don't take the I don't want to listen. So they begin to play their cell phones and play all the things, And at this time, we know we need to find some common things. Just like in some of my lectures related to the shortest path. The shortest path is very, very easy to understand, but at the beginning I use a guidance system, and as an example, I let them to just drive because we have a different backgrounds, so I just use just like a city network like Xi'an is very big, so I just let them to draw some highway or some main road, and then find all the things, and okay, for one person or one student who is come from Africa, he told me, in my hometown, we just have one main road, so we just have two nodes with a link, and that's very hard to find a shortest path because we just have one path.
Yeah.
So at this time, I feel I do too much because I just give this question too detailed. So I just let them to say, if we can find something in the guidance system, and you can find in your hometown, in your city, or otherwise you can find just a network in your in your country. Yeah. Okay. Also, the network in your capital, something like that, and at the beginning, I let everyone to do the presentations to do how to use the coding to find the shortest path, and then I find some same values on that. So I just give them some mission, just like find the map on the find a map on the on your country or on your familiar environment for familiar context, and just contain at least 5 nodes and 7 link. That's okay. And currently, we already did something in just like the some part of coding skills, but I want to share there's still very difficult point. We cannot use the less small way to teach them. It's a math, the basic math. We cannot do anything about that. Just let them training. That's the best way. So it's, because their background is totally different. Some students' math is I have to say it's horrible. Yeah, and then I have no idea. Currently, still based on that way, I have no idea. For me, for in the engineering area, we have some method. We can find some joint values, but in the math, we're totally different. It's so hard. So still, you know, if we touch the math part or very basic math part, no idea. Just I will tell them more is more. If you training more, that you will get something.
More is more. Interesting. Since you talked about joint value or joint point, the West meets East, there's a great question by Adrian. It's as we understand, the Chinese philosophy can be very ambiguous, broad, vague, hard to articulate. You can only feel it. And I see Adrian's question where it's coming from as Western culture, where you do look for KPI, key indicators. So Wu Wei is a stage. And how's that, if one the joining points, how's that translate? I know that teacher is actually in Wu Wei mentality, right, Andrea? Am I interpreting question right? Feel free to jump in.
Yes, I think that says it exactly. I think it's very difficult because it's something that's in motion, but you know, it's the initiation of that motion that like I'm trying to wrap my head around, because so much of Western tradition and Western culture is looking for, you know, specific indicators, specific things that they can point to. So, I mean, I know the answer is that it's different individually and it's different for every relationship, but is there some kind of collaborative sign that we can find that signals the initiation of that relationship?
Wondering, Dr. Guo or Dr. Gong, who would like to take this question? To put in simple language, is really what are some, how does Wu Wei look like? How does Wu Wei sound like when a teacher is teaching in a classroom? I guess that's the simplest way I can put it. Right, like what you see, then you say, wow, this teacher is in Wu Wei stage. I know oftentimes Eastern culture just looks so mysterious because we find it's very hard to articulate with specific indicators. We're just like, feel it. You just feel it. I can't tell you. And that also indicates I'm the master. I'm in Wu Wei stage teaching you. You feel it without me telling you. Go ahead.
It's a very abstract concept. So, you know, so it's very hard to implement in the actual classroom setting. Yeah. Wenjin, master, guide us.
That's a truly lovely question, but hard to respond. Okay, here's my initial thought, Andrea. I find like the teachers usually feel for their students. You can tell from their mindset, their body language, and the smile on their faces, right? However, we can put it in a more like being measured way, a measurable way. Usually when evaluation it happens at the end of the course, at the end of the semester, can we shift that a little bit? Usually, in my teaching, I will send out a pre-survey before class, gather a little bit information about my students. I know the answers will be out of our surprise, since the answer will be a spectrum. And some students will be, I'm an extroverted person. I want to more engagement. However, students can be more introverted. They will, okay, I'll just be myself. I'll just be my shell. I'll be my safe place, right? So as a teacher, we need to giving our attention or attentive to each of the person to the best way they can. Meanwhile, I will don't just stop there. I will gather a midterm evaluation, a midterm survey to gather their feedback. How did I do well, or did I have something to make a change to make you more comfortable at this learning environment? And at the end, we're start to have like the course evaluation. Like we can compare how the students grow and how the teacher do well or not. That's my answer. Initial thoughts. Very primitive.
Actually, I have some support information, additional idea. Just like, you know, how to evaluate. Actually, this question, the key thing about this question is how to evaluate, and how to evaluate what the teacher done. And actually, for us, actually is actually for the student itself, we can use some interview, just like what Dr. Guo said. But why we have these questions? Because sometimes we need some top-down measurement method, right? We won't use a KPI or use this indicators or index to find this teacher do well or do bad. Actually, but that is for in engineering side, that's resource questions. How many resources you put to your evaluations? And actually, in the reality, sometimes for our university, maybe they just have 5% or 10%, just like to handle all the universities' evaluations. And then, what's the percentage for the gradings? Just like Dr. Guo said, and he said, and I use some grading method to grade my and the teaching process. And at this time, and my percentage just 5 or 10. And for the other 10%, they have 90. Think about that. So for this 10% who will handle the hundreds or thousands of teachers or professors, they will think we need some very easy method or very easy index to show or to give the the grading points to all the professors. That's the problem. The balance and unbalance between the professor or teacher to the evaluators. So if we want to teach the process of way, we need to provide more resources to the evaluators. That's why sometimes we currently in China, some university of China, we already use some AI, or you already use some. Yeah, they just take. I don't totally agree with that, but they did some things. They use the camera to detect all the classroom, and for some students, they just hide their head, and how many students will take look at the professor, look at the screen, or look at the blackboard? They will take that, and I don't totally. I still think about that. That's still very rude, right? That's still very rough, but still, but at least we take some take some progress, use some resources to improve our evaluation systems. So think about how for this kind of teaching philosophy, some kind of you feeling or something like your principle, but how to evaluators is something about the resources. That's my opinion.
Awesome. Yes, sometimes I feel like we are actually talking about the same thing conceptually, but it just we're using very different language, and it's a little bit hard to make that connection. As less is more, it feels like as a teacher, yes, you do this, you do that, but if you do too much, maybe it's more about set up a system, have your students engage and do on their own. So maybe that's kind of going a little bit to the indicator, but as mentioned in the chat that as we operationalize indicator, it start to feel a little bit the flavor fades away from wuwei because it's just that not the ecosystem how usually concepts are expressed in Eastern culture. So very interesting. Great question, Adrian. Other questions from audience. This is such an interesting topic.
I also
Um,
wonder, I also wonder if it can be related to Vygotsky's the zone of proximal development. It's almost like everybody has a threshold, like how much information they can take, what's the difficulty level for them, what is the cognitive load. And if it's beyond that threshold, students will feel overwhelmed and they're stressed out and they cannot handle it. So teachers almost like have to monitor, okay, I'm too fast here, I'm too much information here, maybe this is too difficult for them. So maybe it's rather than saying less is more, maybe it's more like what's the best word? Maybe optimal learning or appropriate level or organic. I like the word you use, like organic teaching rather than, because when you say less and teachers will confuse. I don't know, am I doing too much? Another question is like teachers don't always have the control in the classroom. They don't always have the control, like what to teach, how much to teach, and how do you evaluate it? So how do we solve that problem? I mean, a lot of time teachers feel like, I don't want to do this much work, I have no choice. So I just wonder if have you thought about that? So yeah.
I love your metaphor, like making comparison using Jagoski's proximal like cognitive learning stuff.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Like yeah, that's true. And like recently, I just had one session with my international students. They all come from like Russian-speaking countries. Russian will be their first language or their like common language to communicate. And one of the students will be like the very top as a communication language would be Chinese. So I use in simple words like using body language to make them try to understand following what I'm saying. And one of the top students, she understands nearly all of them, and she will be the translator to support her fellow students to comprehend, like they're communicating in Russian, then try to get what I'm saying. Like I guess that would be the like intervention moment. How can we like more meaningfully adapt course plan or lesson plan to suit different students like learning levels. And in meanwhile, I can promote since the student understand all, I can give a more incentive or more like motivation for her to continue to develop her like situation. But for students who are like, I will not say slow learners, but like in the developing process, they're getting up, right? So giving them more easy questions to understand. I guess would be like differentiation. Honestly, as Denning said, it's not less, it's more and more, right? So,
Yeah.
right, I guess that would be just a fancy word to say like the mindset is not like the work you have done, you need to done, and you need to do. It's more about the mindset. How can we more meaningfully incorporate organically?
Yeah, I like what you said.
Like interpret, incorporate. Yes.
Yeah. Like what is really working? Maybe sometimes we're doing so much, it's really not working. It's maybe working on the contrary, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another question in the chat. Wondering how AI industry could improve teaching field.
I told you AI will be in every forum.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm wondering either of you have thought about that?
To be honest, the slides is made by AI.
Really?
Literally, I just make some of the polish, like the templates, the everything. I just give AI my published, like not published, exact published, but like the presented work at AERA got accepted, the paper. So I just put the words and giving them the context. I'm going to present at a pre-ERA session. Please help me design the slides. I guess one of the way, like let's not like misuse AI, not ask AI to write your paper, but ask you to do some of the administrative work. I guess for me, from my end, I think that's tolerable.
And then, well, as you're thinking more to this question, there's another question. Does CRP have something to do with teachers' cultural competence?
Yes and no. For the yes part, it's like if we know different cultural contexts, we may better design our like a lesson plan, like instruction methods, etc. For the no part, I think if you have an open-minded, you have an open-minded mindset, you will know like how can we use their funds of knowledge to collaboratively develop a more like engaging conversation classroom setting. Like for me, I literally know nothing about Russian culture, Russian knowledge, Russian language, but I still can be more welcoming and doing lots of things to make students feel they have a sense of belonging of the context. So yes and no.
Seeing from Dr. Guang, I'm curious, how did both of you get into this area, get interested in this area? Because, your major wasn't this, and Taoism wasn't dominating, embedded in the Chinese K-12 education as we know, as Kong Mon, Rujia. So how did you get interested? I'm curious.
Actually, we as a professor, that that's some part of the research need, because even for us, we involved in the engineering area, but or computer science area, but we still need to teach. As a professor, the basic thing is teach, and based on that, based on that, the thing is, we did for almost all of our colleague, we didn't have this kind of training, based on very detailed training in education area. We just we need to pass some exam, and then we take some half of our semester to learning something in every weekend. That's it. And the key target is pass exam. So we don't know how to teach. And this time we is the other question is for the international education challenge. And we have been the international students. Some of for me and our some of our colleagues, we have been international students. We know these feelings, but that's one directional. We for me, I have a background in China and then moved to United States. But for the other students, for the student we teaching is another way. So they just join the Chinese cultural background. That's a total different way. So at this time, we will think about how to. The first thing is how to teach, and then is what's our teaching philosophies, and then how to let them join them. How to let our students to join this kind of Chinese cultures. And then, based on that, we began to have this idea to maybe we can involve some traditional cultures in some part. And when we read more and more, we find, okay, that's maybe the philosophies. Yeah, that's very interesting stories. Yeah.
I think this collaboration go far beyond at least 8 years. Yeah, like when Dr. Gong and I were both international students in the United States, he and I in different background, as I'm in education, curriculum instruction, Dr. Gong in civil engineering, specializing in transportation. We're starting to dialogue, talking about the different experiences we encounter in the United States, like in different backgrounds, as the teaching philosophy are completely different, right? So, and most of the STEM education will be like top down. It will be teacher monologue a lot, like with limited time for engagement, for interaction with the peers and collaborative work. But in our field, collaborative is all the way. Like we are having presentations, facilitations. It's more about dialogue, engaging conversations. Then we start to think about would be a better way to get in touch with STEM education. Would be better to have a sort of support, because I feel supported, I feel understand, and the teacher really understood me. They know how challenged I felt in getting up with the reading. Since for one course we can have one book for 1 week, writing another 1,000 words reflection. That's common, right? So how can we support international students in the STEM field? That's become our initial thoughts. Then we started to build up, and in terms of Yubo just asked about how Taoism just coming through instead of Confucianism, instead of Buddhism. I just is coming out so naturally, as Denting mentioned, so organically. As we are trying to explore, how can we find a better way to interpret ourselves? How can we find a better way to incorporate two different theories to making the conflicts less conflictable? So I guess that's the initial thoughts. But over the road, there will be so many humps and bumps as we argue with each other all the time. Since we all have our own mindset and also shifted, I guess the engaged conversation and meaningful dialogue, giving us a chance to unlearn what we already learned, to relearn what we should learn. So we are on this trip together and coming out to this position right now.
Awesome. Thank you. Because looking at time, can't believe we're already 3 minutes past 9. Apologize. So we really need to wrap up. And thank you for this profound message. Unlearn and relearn. And let's do that together after this session. And thank you again so much for Dr. Go and Wenjin.
Yes, let's say thank Dr. Yubo, Zhang, Dr. Wenjin Guo, and also Dr. Siyu Gong for the very, very meaningful and insightful presentation. And it is so much needed because today I think everybody is burned out, Just
Doing too much. Yes.
doing too much, and everybody's feel rushed and busy, overwhelmed, stressed. Everybody needs to listen to Wenjin and Dr. Gong's talk. So, all right. So thank you so much. I really hope we can have some kind of practical guidance to how to implement this in the actual education setting. I think it would be very, very meaningful, right? We can do less and actually get more done. Who would not
Yeah.
love that, right? All right. So before we end, I will make several quick announcements. This is seventh, right? And our next one will be our foreign 8. Only 3 virtual sessions left. Woohoo! I cannot believe we did it because when I first proposed this idea, Liz Jackson, like, what? Every week? That's too much. Okay. She said maybe once a month. I was like, I just want to have that momentum moving, going till AERA. I cannot believe we're actually doing this. So great job, guys. Thank you so much for your support and make this possible. So for our foreign aid, we're going to have Dr. Rong Deng from the Education University of Hong Kong. And I don't know if she's online or not. Are you here? I don't know. Dr. James Yang from Beijing Normal and Hong Kong Baptist University. I know. Yes, Dr. Yang, do you want to turn on your video and quickly say
Hello,
hello? Tell people what
can you
you
hear
will be.
me? How
Yes,
are
we can
you?
hear
Thank
you.
you.
Share with everybody what will you be talking about that we have to come and listen to you.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about how pragmatic aspect of Confucianism shape students' selection of their majors. In the United States, a group of students, they're studying abroad during the period of late Qing Dynasty and the early Republican period. I will talk about what kind of connection, philosophical and cultural connections between their choice of majors and the Confucian tradition. Yes, as simple as that. Yeah. Additionally, I will focus on two famous historical figures like Hu Shi and Jiang Mengling or Tao Xinzhi. Yeah, just talking about how they make choice, how they made a big decision during their life journey and education.
All right, sounds like that would definitely be more very fascinating topic for those people who are studying abroad or have studied abroad before. Don't you think so? Right? And also people plan to study
Journey
abroad.
in the United States.
Yeah,
I agree. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes.
I'm confident that topic is very attractive and fascinating. Okay,
It's
to
fascinating.
international
Yes.
students.
So please do come next week. It's a must watch. Okay, must.
I will. Yeah,
Yes.
I will mark it in my calendar. No worries.
Oh yeah, you have to be here, okay? So, all right. So for our foreign 9, we're going to have Ms. Siwan Han, Dr. Zitong Wei, and Mr. Raja Kumar Barrow, and myself. And the last one, I have to emphasize it because he's our last, and but the most important one. We're gonna have Dr. Stephen Boynton. He's actually here. Are you still here? Oh, he left already. Okay. So my husband, he's actually expert on the Chinese history, the religion, everything. And the second one is Dr. Edward Wilson Lee. He's a Cambridge University professor. And the third one, from Dr. Peter Ball from Harvard University. And he is like a big name, it's a guru in the Confucianism. So definitely it's a must, must see, must watch. And also because the time difference, the time is going to be 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. in the US. That means 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. in China. I'm not sure Wenjin and
I'm gonna
Dr.
pass
Guo,
that.
we're
I
going
will
to
watch
stay
like
up
the
for this
recorded video.
fascinating talk. All right. Yes, and then I don't know if you bought your tickets yet, you booked your airline yet. I have already. If you have not, go ahead and do it. And I look forward to meet everybody in LA. It's going to be fascinating conference. Are you guys all excited for it? Yes or no? All right. So that's all I have. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Thank you. All right. I don't know why I have repeated here. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Yubo. Thank you, Dr. Wenjin Guo. Yes. Great session.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, bye. Thank you, everybody. See you next
Thank you,
week.
everyone, for
Bye.
coming.
All right. Thank you,
Have
Brian.
a great evening.
Thank you, Dr. Zhang.